because I don't think they like the message that you're presenting.
Sorry.
Now, they can argue differently than
Good job.
that. Yep. I can tell you that's my sense of what I'm hearing. And, I guess they're disappointed in what you messaged them, or at least you really have a message. You were given a few disjointed opportunities at last Monday night's council meeting. You're not given additional time. You're summarily stopped as soon as the time stopped, and that's the way it is.
I do have to say that I was surprised. I haven't been to council meetings in a while, but I was surprised that the time wasn't extended for us, because I have noticed in a lot of meetings when there's an outpour of citizens that for other topics we can extend the 3 minutes, but it wasn't extended for any of us. But you know what? That's neither here nor there.
Yep.
I think the best thing that we can do is just move on.
So, scheduling a presentation to the council, you think a letter or?
Well, we have a recommendation for a letter. I know I'm going to just make present an idea. I don't know where, we have H on our agenda to investigate in detail dissolving our committee. So if we dissolve, and that's something that the committee decides that we all want to do, then there's really no reason to present. For me personally, if I feel like nobody wants to hear me, then I just don't speak. That's me personally. So
Okay, but the thing is, we did quite a bit of work.
Yes.
As a group, and to just be sort of summarily told, thank you, see you later, is okay with me.
I think the public
It really
wants
is.
to hear.
But,
The public wants to hear.
but we really should get across to them that we dove into this pretty deeply, including contacting a bunch of other companies, and we came up with recommendations that are valid.
Kelly?
I would love to hear from Randy, like what you think about all of the work. I feel like we not only gave the council exactly what they asked for, but also more. I'd love to hear your point of view, since you said Daryl's not speaking for you.
I think that the issue is for me, I felt like speaking during citizen comments was your attempt at hijacking the council meeting instead of waiting for the opportunity to present. And therefore, the mayor felt that she heard everything that needed to be said, but not speaking for the mayor, but that's the way it seems to me.
Okay. And thank you for your perspective, because it's really important for us to understand what the perception is. As I stated earlier at our last meeting, it was just one of those things where we knew we wanted to get something before council, before the rate study, preferably. And even if we would have waited for the next meeting, there was already 2 presentations. So I'm not...
We didn't have any spots.
There were no spots. And so maybe there were spots before. We don't have administration, we don't have a clerk, we don't have anybody holding our hand. It's actually a lot of work for us to be here. I'm playing clerk and administration and all the roles. And nobody's guiding us. So all we know is what we do. And I personally, as chair, don't feel comfortable making arrangements on behalf of the body. That's my style.
Well, then I guess I will speak up, because I read an email from you to Rob Montgomery where you recommended counseling Mr. Thayer without speaking to the body.
So the email directly stated, Randy, that I will be making a motion to cancel the presentation. Yeah, just for the record, and that I believe I likely have the votes because the body kept on calling me. I didn't want to cancel him. But as the chair, if I receive calls, then I'm going to, I didn't want to waste Mr. Thayer's time, nor did I want to waste Rob's time or anybody else's time. So I was just acting in a capacity of transparency instead of just waiting for the meeting.
Your letter of apology was very good, too. And, you know, we do feel bad about that, but we felt ourselves that we were hijacked because we had a job to do. And then bringing in all these speakers that really have not a lot to do with our job was taking our time away. The first presentation we got
over an hour.
was an hour of our time, and
A 2-hour meeting.
and we couldn't get back to doing the deliverables.
I understand that from Rissy's email. What I didn't understand was how the meeting had been set weeks prior. At the end of the last meeting, the meeting was set Friday at noon-ish. Mr. Montgomery followed up with Rissy saying, hey, we're still on. Rissy replied back Sunday morning at about 10:45 in the morning on
That's
Sunday. Rob still replied Sunday evening, even though he's not working. And so, yeah, the last minute cancellation was very last minute, and I believe your apology came way, way, way too late. The apology, if it was sincere, would have been sent that
But
following Monday.
we apologized to Rob. Rob, and Rob told us that the presentation would be 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we knew after the first presentation that the next one was probably going to do the same thing.
Right, and how many, I already know the answer to this, but for the record, in Rissy's email, she said that the majority, she thought she would have the votes because you only had a 2-hour meeting, yet every single one of your meetings has gone over 2 hours.
There's actually only been one meeting that went over 2 hours, Randy, to be exact, and it was the meeting that we were trying to pull everything together to present to council, because we wanted to make sure that we had the deliverables done in time for your rate study. And we,
According to one of the members who isn't here, she disagrees with that, but I sat through some of them, but not through all of it.
so there may, I mean, am I wrong? My memory isn't
No,
the best.
we went 5 to 10 minutes over
Well, you know, we went a little bit over.
most of the time, but one time we went
We went
over
to like
45 minutes to try to get our deliverable.
Usually it was like 10 minutes or
To
so,
present.
and a lot of that was for comments for everybody, and Robert's big part of the comments.
Yeah, and one time we adjourned and several people stayed for another half hour. Not as a committee, but chatting with people that were here.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
one of
Phil,
those
sorry.
who did suggest that we get our job done and then proceed after that to consider more presentations. So I'm still happy with the way we did it because we were under the gun, and at some point we have time to see what Mr. Thayer has to say, because I'm not even sure what he's going to talk about.
Madam Chair, if I might.
Yes, sir.
Our mission statement was very narrow focused. We appealed to modify it somewhat, and it was declined at City Council, which is fine, that's their prerogative. The deliverables request was quite narrow. We shoehorned quite a little bit into them. There was a question what the presentation might be from Mr. Thayer. I know Mr. Thayer personally, as to what that would do to facilitate us on our deliverables. I don't know that it would or wouldn't. I just couldn't quite figure it out. We had considerable on our plate to do in 2 hours, 4 meetings of 2 hours each before the deliverables needed to be on the table at the same time that the gentleman from Maine was putting his on the table.
Correct. So I just want to keep
That's all I
us,
have to say.
thank you so much. I want to keep us on our agenda so that we can keep an efficient meeting. And I'll get down to the part where I discuss my apology later, but let's keep it on the agenda about presenting to council. Do we want to present to council? And if so, how?
What do they want to hear? It doesn't sound like they really want to hear more than what we gave them already, but it would be nice to send one more lay-down letter
Okay.
respectfully saying that we tried our best in the short period of time that we had. And I'll help if you would like. I can,
That would be awesome. I don't really know what else to say that we haven't already said. Especially like what I'm getting is that council understood it perfectly and everything's fine and no questions were needed and no discussion was needed. So it must have been so clear.
I get questions, a lot of questions from the public though, and I'm like, go back and listen to all the meetings and you'll know everything I do. But I would like to see a presentation, whether it's in customer comments, public comments, and a presentation so there's something documented and in writing to look back on later.
So one of the things that we would have the option, so you got 3 minutes to speak at the beginning, and then there's 5 minutes at the end. I have seen other folks that were not able to get on an agenda for a presentation, and it is common to see people present in citizens' comments and then, get as far as they can in the first part and sit through the meeting and wait to finish presenting in the end. If I would feel better, I personally have a lot on my plate right now that I cannot take on any work. I can be available to read, and I trust that as a committee, a majority of us, with the exception of maybe one member, are all on the same page. So whatever is generated by the two of you, I personally would feel comfortable reading.
Can I make an observation, having a lot of years of experience working in various committees and the city and other capacities? I have never seen where there hasn't been an opportunity in a formal either work session or special meeting for a committee that's been constituted by the council to submit their report and make their recommendations. To allow, the council couldn't ask you any questions in that time that you were presenting. That was you didn't get the opportunity to have them.
There's no back and forth.
No back and forth.
I'd like to agree.
I found that to be quite disconcerting, and I find it strange that all it takes is two council members or the mayor or the city manager or deputy city manager, assistant city manager to request a special meeting or a work session. It's commonly done. They do it all the time. And so I was surprised that that wasn't afforded and done either by the direction of the mayor, the city manager, or whomever that can do that, set up a time. They have time for a special meeting.
So one of the things, sorry Daryl, I don't mean to interrupt you, but one thing I could do is I could email the mayor directly and ask her, after our meeting if we discussed it and we would like to know if she would consider scheduling a special meeting. And so the way that Vice Chair Paquette was able to get the special meeting in the first place, I think she had a discussion with the assistant city manager, and the assistant city manager reached out to the mayor, and then the mayor scheduled it. So
you should carbon our new city manager when you corresponded with the mayor.
Or like Kelly said, I could start with the city manager, and then if the city manager feels that we have the support, maybe she will reach out to the mayor in the same capacity. I just follow the same chain of how it happened in the past.
I would be happy with just a nice summary of our conclusions or our report and make it public so it is somewhere on the record of what we discussed and concluded.
And I appreciate that, Phil. The only thing is I don't want to go down the same road that we just went, where council feels like we're hijacking a meeting. So I think that what council wants is for us to ask for permission. I think ultimately that's what's happening. And so far, all we've done is asked the clerk for permission, trying to, again, figure out how to carry ourselves to the finish line without any support. And so, again, maybe what we need to do is just follow the same lines that Vice Chair Paquette had figured out and see if we can get a work session where we can have a back and forth. It's worth a try if everybody is up for it. I know Lori won't be here. I know she was a very important piece of presenting.
Skip said that he could.
Okay,
If
perfect.
we asked him,
Sweet.
he would fill in perhaps.
So,
But he's leaving
He's leaving
in
soon.
another week, so he'll be here for that meeting and then go on. So,
dang it. So now we're gonna look like hijackers again because we're gonna try to rush
Unless
something.
could we get a special meeting before the next council meeting, like the hour before? Much like the rate study was the first hour. and-
I will ask. I need to write that down somewhere though. Yeah, Randy?
As much as I appreciate you using my term hijacker, I just want to be very clear that that's me speaking, not the council. I was not implying that that's how the entire council felt, because I would never speak for a bunch of individuals. That's how I felt.
Heard. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I might,
Yes.
it's kind of interesting to me that we were selected by council on this very important mission, and this might be the largest dollar or far-reaching event that the city council has addressed in years. Why would the city council, when they put us at the task to take care and investigate this for them, why would they not be at this meeting and asking the questions and things of that nature?
Well, and
Randy is correct.
yeah, I do appreciate.
The mayor should be here, the bunch of them. If they can't make time for us, we're making time for them, they should be here.
And perhaps they're on Sacktown, so we can just hope that they
That's
are.
fine. This is very far-reaching, and the most dollars the city of Seward has been stepping around for a long time that I recall.
Thank you. And those comments are appreciated. I want to keep on task because I want to make a timely meeting in consideration of Skip's schedule, because I know finance, but I'm just not in a place right now to have all my ducks in a row. What is Skip's schedule, and do I have the blessings to approach Kat to see if she will approach the mayor to try to one last shot at getting a work session?
Yes,
Last offer.
Okay.
I think.
And what is Skip's schedule? When you made a suggestion, Kelly, to ask for a special meeting prior to the regular
Council meeting next
Okay.
week.
Okay,
How many days do we have to do that beforehand, though? Is it a week?
24 hours.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. Special meeting.
Even if Skip can't make it, I feel like maybe you and I have enough information to,
It would have to be this week, though, because I leave
because you
Sunday.
leave too.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know that I have all the information by myself, but I have spent a lot of time talking to Skip in the last couple days, so I have a general idea.
so with that said, the only committee members that would be available would be you, me, Megs, you, and Phil, right? Kevin, you'll be out of town.
I'll be gone.
Jim, will you be around next Monday?
possibly. I might be in Fairbanks starting Friday.
Okay, and do you guys feel like an hour is enough, 6 p.m.?
As far as I know, they don't have any questions or discussions, so.
Okay. Any objections? Okay, and as far as, just in case, so that we don't look like we're doing something behind the scenes and we're being transparent, just in case we can't get the special meeting, we are still going to provide a letter to council and a lay-down form. Is that correct?
Sounds like a great idea.
Okay, perfect. So, any other discussion on the presentation to council? Okay, seeing none. Item 8A, discuss the report provided to committee on September 12th by Mike Hubbard. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So this was the September 11th, was that Monday, September 11th meeting that we held at noon. We discussed the rate study that was presented to the public, but then apparently there was more of the rate study that only council had access to. that wasn't released until after the council meeting. Is that correct, Randy? Just so I'm not saying
No,
stuff
that
that's
is
not
not
true.
That is definitely not correct.
Okay.
None of us had access to that
Oh,
until after. No
Okay.
sooner that, we didn't have access to it before anybody else had access to it.
thank you so much. So from the outside, what it looked like when Kelly came up and said, is there a report or something, the mayor kind of leaned back and was like, so it was
It was
like,
confusing.
we
Yeah.
were like, well, where is it? So,
But I think there's also some confusion because we all got that handout, which was the slides that Hubbard presented, and I thought that was the rate study, but then they sent us a 135-page document that was the actual rate study.
So what I believe, and again, I don't like to speak for anybody, but
Uh-huh.
I can only assume what she was pointing at was the
presentation.
The presentation.
okay,
Which is what we all had.
perfect. I really appreciate you being here.
Me too.
Because this is how communication falls apart, is when nobody will communicate. And so, thank you. And I'm glad that we can get all these clarifications. So, the reason that we have this on our agenda, my understanding, is so that we can discuss the 135-page report and see if that changed.
Has anybody here read the 137-page report? Yes? Okay, I have not seen that report.
I've kind of read the last.
Even though it was sent to me, I have not seen it.
And I'm raising my hand because I'm a big, like, no, I didn't even open it, so.
Oh, I actually read.
Yeah.
I've heard some
part of
things
it.
secondhand, but I don't have first-hand
Okay.
basis for that.
So what I would recommend prior to our work session with council is that we all have the opportunity to read it. And Kevin, even though you're leaving town, if you could still read it and provide feedback of the report, because you're the electric utility professional for us here. And Retired. I'm sorry. I get it. If you could please provide feedback through the clerk's office, just so that we can all see that. And then if there's council members or public that wants that, then that will be available as well.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
so-
I guess, reading through it, they don't break down the employees and stuff, right? It's just built into the cost. And so it would have been nice to have been able to see that breakdown and see how our salaries compared to.
And one thing that Skip wanted to make sure was clear to everyone, because he and I both brought it up at the meeting, that it looked like they were double dipping for repairs for $500,000, that Mr. Hubbard did say, yes, that's true, it was a mistake on their part. Skip asked if they could revise that and publish it before the election, and he said he wouldn't have time.
Okay.
But Skip said to assume that because they said $1 million counts for every 2 cents in rate increase, so you can assume there's 1 cent that's not in there, that should not be in there, so it dropped down to 5.4, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
He also said that during that presentation was, yes, they did not break out the additional new employee hires. However, the number of employees was there, and that if you took out all the employment costs, it would lower it by $1 million. So
So
you really need to know how many individual employees there are, because if you cut it by $500,000, that cuts it by $500,000.
Okay, so basically what I'm understanding is there's 1 more cent of employees added. So we have 1 cent for,
No, 1 cent for the extra repairs that they added in,
Right.
and then 2 cents for
2
the million
cents.
of extra employees that
so
they added
then
in.
there's 3 cents.
3 cents, so now we're down to 3.4 cents
And
per
then
kilowatt.
there was the capital projects that they put in for the two-year pay,
Return.
term.
Right. So in the presentation, and Randy, I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong after, or Daryl, you got this in the handbag too, but what I understood, and thank you for, because I felt like, I was like, am I the only person that sees that? But basically, when you do a capital improvement, you budget for it, right? So in my perspective, the motor pool is a perfect example it's not a capital improvement, but you buy a car for $100,000 and you take it out of this fund, and then you pay that fund back for the next 10 years, so that in 10 years, you have another $100,000 to buy yourself another car. But what's happening in the budget presented at the rate study is there's capital improvements. For example, I think one of them was a transformer, Phil, you probably know. And Jason, maybe you know the capital improvements that I'm referring to, but basically they're being paid back in 2 years instead of being justified as, let's just bump up our MRF over the next 10 years. I mean, you can do it however you want. It's all just accounting. So I can pay for my house in 5 years if I bump up my payments, and then I can tell my kids, you guys aren't getting Christmas this year because we're broke. Or I can amortize my house over the 30 years and afford Christmas. So I think that's what I understood. And so with that said, that was another $2 million that was being paid for in 2 years. So that's another 4 cents. Go ahead, Randy.
I believe your issue is the different types of accounting that you're referring to. So what you're talking about is cash-based accounting when you're talking about your home, and not accrual accounting. So there's 2 different types.
Yes, I do
As you know,
understand.
I'm sure you do. And so your assets and your depreciation act a whole lot different on your balance sheet and your profit and loss through an accrual accounting system than they do through a cash accounting system.
Absolutely.
And you can adjust your depreciation and your expenditures and pay them off however you want. That's correct.
So with that said, you can take out of your savings account, which basically we're doing for the $2 million for the upgrade of transformers and whatnot. And I'm not a professional, I'm just speaking as a citizen. But my understanding is you can take out of your bank account $2 million to fix something, and you can choose how you're going to pay yourself back. And that's what I understand is happening, because I don't believe of that $2 million that we have bonds or anybody else that we're paying back other than ourselves. So just like with the motor pool, you know, during COVID, council decided, well, let's just hold off on motor pool payments so that we can make our budget balance, because the motor pool is a big expense and it can wait because we're basically just paying ourselves. So we've done it before, and that's accrual accounting. We could do it again. There is an option, but with the particular rate study that was presented before us, that's not suggested. But I believe that's an option. And if I'm able to get a work session with council, that would be the thing that I would want clarification on.
Just remember, you have 4 accounts that you're, 2 T accounts and four accounts that you're talking about. So you have your asset that you purchased and the depreciation. You have the expense for it, right? But you're missing one. Right? Because what you do to one side to the T account, you have to do to the other, right? So you have to add in that expense. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to borrow the money and pay it back. It still has to show up in 4 different places.
Absolutely. Yep. Because you can't have equations of 3, because then you're unbalanced. Yeah. Any other discussion on the report provided by Mike Hubbard?
Just that I understood from conversations I've had, even though I haven't read it, is that that's the total increase over 3 years. It won't all happen in 1 year. It'll be.
I have to skip about that because we read it differently. It was said one way in the presentation document that we all got during his presentation, but in the 135-page document, he says that 6.4 cent increase should happen in 2024.
In 1 year.
Right away. Like as soon
Which our
as-
findings as a committee definitely did not show that.
Well, and we may end up at 6.4 over 3 years, but we're starting at 2 cents instead of like making that huge jump, which is a much more gradual way to get there. And maybe like by year 2 or 3, we're like, whoa, we've already done it, we're good. Like, but he's saying add the cents per kilowatt hour now?
Because 2023 is almost over. And we should have already done a rate increase, supposedly. The rate study, according to them, not me, should have been done already. And I think that that's what he was saying. He's like, I'm doing a rate study on 2022, not on 2023, and 2023 is almost over. So he was pretty clear when he said that's why I recommended that it start right away. But he said multiple times that you can enact the rate increase however you see fit.
Can we add to the minutes that Meg's arrived? Okay, cool.
Safely.
Okay, so any other discussion on Mike Hubbard's report? No? Okay. Citizens? Nope. Okay, moving on to item 8B.
Will this report be available for the public, the 135 pages?
It is available to the public, and you can get it from the city clerk's office. Which is...
It is still a draft, though.
Oh, okay.
The report I got said draft on it very clearly, and there's already been cleared that he needs to revise some stuff, so
Okay.
just keep that in mind when you read it.
And for the public, it is clerk@cityofseward.net.
So, just in the big picture, it seems like Hubbard's report, just like our committee's mission statement, were sort of dictated by what the electrical manager laid out.
Just as our report was dictated by ours, right? So you get different people creating a budget. You can, I've been sitting behind here for 12 years, and I've seen lots of different tastes of what a budget looks like. And you can make numbers work. That's why we have them. And it's a matter of, do you want to make the numbers work for this, or do you want to make the numbers work for this? Or that, or that, or that, right? So, does that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Numbers in, numbers out. Okay. Are we ready to move on to 8B? Okay. Need a motion and a second to review and discuss electric ad hoc committee's proposed budget.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have the budget before us? Is there, Kelly, it sounds like you've been working with Skip since Lori has left.
Just for the information that was in this, not on the budget as a whole. But, and I don't have a copy of the budget in front of me at the moment.
Okay.
I might be able to answer some questions in general.
Yes.
This isn't what we handed to, this is from the rate study, right? This isn't from us? Ours was like an Excel sheet with 2 columns.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, that
rebuild,
one.
you were talking about our rebuild, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you do some more on the rebuild?
I did not, I just tried to understand it a little bit better.
And Kevin, do you have any, I know you have been working closely with Skip, do you have any, I don't even know why this is on here other than, I guess, just to ask if there's any changes.
I think, this is just my opinion, but I've been on another committee for 18 months that we've been looking at the sale and working with the current budget, the last published budget, which was in 2021, and the proposed 2024 budget. And we could see that the company could be viable and still make a profit with not too monumental of changes to it. And so I don't have the budget in front of me that we worked on for such a long time, but everybody that looked at that budget and except for possibly one person that we dealt with, still thinks that this company can be successful and still put over $1 million a year into the city coffers, which is why both Chugach and Homer Electric want to buy it, because they see the profit margin there, and they are both still interested. I have heard comments that, well, if we don't sell it to Homer this time, that they're never going to make another offer. That is pretty much hyperbole, I think. And I have spoken to Chugach myself, and they are still very, very interested, because it would be good for them. You know, it would, in my opinion, it would be bad for the city because we lose jobs. You know, we can still make this, we can still put money in. You still have 48% of the meters that are outside the city that are putting money into the city of Seward that will go away as soon as you sell the utility. That 48% of the meters, then all that profit goes to whoever buys us. And we lose several of the jobs that are here. We'll still need the linemen, but we're not going to need several of the other jobs that are filled here. You know, they have engineering divisions, and they have public relations divisions and consumer affairs divisions, so they can take care of all that without us having people living in Seward doing the work. And so it just almost looks like a no-brainer to me that the numbers can come out so close, even with what Mr. Hubbard said is going to be these increases are going to be demanded, and I think he said by 2025. And the thing is that Homer Electric only has gas until, they don't have a gas contract after March 31st of next year. They only have Hillcorp is the only supplier, and Hillcorp has told them that they have to increase because the gas is running out, right? Chugach is also going to have that problem in about 4 years, that they don't have a gas after that. And what they're going to end up doing is starting to import LNG. But no matter what, Seward would get the cheapest bulk electric power from where we've got it for the last 65 years, when the transmission line went in from Cooper Lake to Anchorage. I'm just kind of flabbergasted that isn't such an easy thing to see. But
to add to your comment, I mean, Chugach actually, because they bought MLP's natural gas, they actually have this lower cost gas that I think is going to go for like 10 years or something. So they're buying half from Hillcorp.
But it is going down,
right.
And the field, they said that drilling more holes isn't going to fix the problem they have. So, and here's the funny thing is that the LNG reversal process is going to happen at Nikiski in Homer territory, because, and if Homer was smart, they'd jump on with Chugach right now, because Chugach and Matanuska Electric are going to partner for part of this, and Homer should jump in too, because the more you got in a group, the better you can do to do this reverse process. You know, it's the NSTAR owns the gas lines. So the transportation, and that's the other thing I don't think a lot of people don't understand about the power company and the gas company in Anchorage. Everybody in Anchorage, Eagle River use natural gas for heat. They don't use oil. Nobody does, because natural gas has been extremely cheap for all these years. Well, NSTAR, heating your home is more important than keeping your lights on. Always has been. So when they have these big gas crunches and stuff, I'm getting way off track here, but NSTAR, the thing is that you would always shut the power off to save the gas pressure, because if the gas pressure ever goes to zero, every single meter has to have the gas company's version of the lineman, go to every single meter and reset the diaphragm inside that pressure reducer. It's incredibly complicated. You saw what happened in Texas about 5 years ago in the winter. It was a disaster when they lost the gas pressure. Then, anyway, everybody's rates are going to go up dramatically in the next 10 years. But I think we can still make this electric company a success and still keep our rates very close to the Chugach rate and probably lower than the Homer rate if we don't sell. We're only 10% of the Alaska load here, which is about
1%?
I'm sorry, 1%.
1%.
1%, which is about 3.5 or 4% of Chugach's load. So it's not a big deal for them to pick us up. Homer's load is around 70 megawatts. So we're a bit more than them, you know, it's more than 10% of their load that they'd be picking up. But wholesale bulk power, upgrading the 115 line is going to make a drop in our losses, but not enough to make those high losses that we have in the Seward system go away. It'll be around 1% in my sort of, power system background estimate. But the big thing we could do here to save is fix the problem with
Power factor.
That would save quite a bit of money, but it would be painful for a few of our customers to do that right away. The other part, Rob's wanting all those new employees. I think we proved it, and Madam Chair, you came up with a great idea of combining 2.5 of those positions into one. That would save a couple $100,000 a year. I mean, but it would also, it'll take a little bit out of the profit going to the city. But on the other hand, it will get 2.5 more jobs in this town. And I think, isn't that what we really want to do here? Don't we want to make Seward vibrant and not be all B&Bs? I mean, B&Bs were just wonderful 15, 20 years ago, but now, I mean, and a lot of us have enjoyed B&Bs, but if you don't let somebody live there in the winter, I mean, our town doesn't resemble what it used to, does it, Jim?
No, we're starving for year-round living wage jobs.
And this would be a way to keep a few of them in town.
And just to bring it back to our agenda item, I think that what you're condensing is that our budget has the proposed jobs, our budget has money going into MRF, our budget has accounted for repairs, and we feel that it is a budget that is viable, and we see no reason that we cannot we see no reason why we cannot keep our
You
utilities.
said that so much better than I did. And so much more succinctly.
So with that said, just to piggyback on the combined positions, there was only one position that we combined, right? But the other position was a position that we presented to share with the general fund so that the city can have, I don't think it's our electric utility that needs a communications outreach. I think the whole city does. And so it's a benefit not just to our electric department, but to the city as a whole.
And we do, provide $1 million to administration that's supposed to be covering some of these overall expenses.
One more thing too, we brought up several times about the cybersecurity, and I did have a meeting at Chugach Electric last week with their head of cybersecurity, and Seward would not have much of a problem with dealing with the cybersecurity because we are so small. A lot of it is based on the most cybersecurity efforts that are going to be mandated by Senate Bill 123 are in the dispatch centers and any of the large substations that are bigger than 69 kV and in the large power plants. So our small power plant, it has a small SCADA system. That would have to be audited. And the person I was speaking with said, yes, there will be help from FEMA and Homeland Security and some of the other federal programs, because there are thousands of small utilities like this one in the United States, and all of them are also going to be mandated to have oversight of their cybersecurity, but they will not need a full-time position at all.
And that just goes back to why, for a city to have infrastructure like an electric utility, that does put us in a place to be able to get federal funds and things that maybe other utilities would not be eligible for. So it's just one more reason for us to hang on, because those funds funnel into our community in some way or another. Any more discussion on the budget? Okay, moving on to item 8C. Discussion to discuss the formation of an electric utility board. I'll need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
A second.
So, Jim, you want to?
Yeah, we've talked about this several times, as I recall, and it kind of boiled down to a 5-member board, because then you need a 3-person quorum. Sometimes in wintertime it's hard to get quorums on things. If it was inside and outside city membership, if it was in the service area, I believe that would help tie things together, and it'd be some of this inside-outside discussions. Then it would put everybody on the same team, if you will, and I think that would help a lot with how things are discussed in town. If a 5-member group was started, there could be the first year, could be a 2-year term for a couple, 3-year term when the election, and the ballots could go out in the electric bill, you would think, so that it would go to the resident people that have meters. There's a lot of meters that don't have Alaska Railroad, have thaw wires, things of this, streetlights, things of this nature. If it was the residents got the ballots, then they could vote accordingly, inside, outside the city. Or the membership would need to be theoretically residents that have meters. You have a vested interest. That's what I recall part of our discussion.
Sweet. And then Phil sent...
Yeah, I forwarded the Nome Joint Utility, which I have a little familiarity with, and it seemed like it works just fine for Nome. It's worked for 80 years or something.
Although Nome's did say that you have to be a resident of the city.
And I think it's a legal issue about having none
because
city
of the corporation.
Folks have any say in financial dealings. And in Nome, it's only 3 or 4, a half a dozen residences outside.
I think if it was confined to just residents within city limits, we might have a hard time finding 5 people to sit on the board.
Yeah, because they only pay them, what is it, $50 a month, right? So, I mean,
Unless we gave them a credit
we're
on the
here for
electrical
free
bill.
because we just really enjoy this.
Can I give a little history here?
Sure, please.
For years, Seward had its own electric utility board. I don't know how it was constituted. I haven't gone down back in eons of records and looked at, but going back to the city records history, I think it would be possible to glean how that was set up and operated. I know it created some issues and ended up finally being ended by the city council who owned the utility, and they will continue to own it. The city of Seward, of which the city council is
Representative.
will continue to be the...
It was similar to the hospital board? Yeah.
Very similar to what that relationship has been.
I don't see the city in a position of divesting themselves on that. That basically would be the city selling it to a separately created utility in our area. I mean, we've talked about, that being a possibility of creating an REA co-op or some kind of a co-op, but that would then be divesting ownership of the utility by the city into this new co-op.
Correct, and then
And, and one of the things that I think we need to keep our eye on the ball on is that there is no more afforded access manner of any utility that I know of in the state of Alaska right now. Perhaps there's some that are similar to this one, that have the public have the access to the board of directors like you do here.
Yeah.
Every council meeting, you get 8 minutes to speak to them. And at special meetings, you get the same thing. That doesn't exist in an REA co-op or another system. You get plenty of access. If you sell to an REA co-op, you're going to get access to maybe 2 meetings a year, where you go and talk to your, to the board. We're very blessed here. We have a board sits right there twice a month, and you can come and talk to about the electric utility or your issues all the time. Mm-hmm. And they listen. We're blessed with a council that listens. And, I really mean that. This council, I think, listens to its citizens. Now, maybe not as much as I'd like them to see listen on this particular topic, but they do listen by and large. And I respect them for that. And because you're right here. They're out on the street. They're our neighbors. We're their neighbors. You're not going to get that kind of direct access if you have a board that sits 75, 100 miles, 150 miles away from it.
correct.
It's just not going to happen. So I think if you look at setting up a utility board, you got to remember that the ultimate decider of the budget and anything that board does is going to be the 7 people that sit around that dais as the city council.
The
And that's
council.
exactly how no
And that's how it works. And if it works, it's a wonderful relationship, because it's kind of like planning and zoning, maybe. Not so much so. Planning and zoning does.
An advisory board like PACAB or something.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than an advisory board, because they would be an operating board. They would hire and fire, I guess, the utility managers and that group. It's a little bit higher level responsibility. And it works well as long as you don't get crossed by the 7 guys that own the thing.
Which in Nome happen frequently enough, right? I mean, it's just the world of people.
That's
And
why
that's why some of us ended up going to city council, because we got pissed off. And the council going, look, we need a new generator. We've rebuilt this one 4 times. It's done, and they just...
So can I just, sorry, Kevin, were you going to speak?
I was just going to say one thing about when they had a board before. Probably 90% of the people lived inside the city limits. And now the demographics have changed so much that we have all those subdivisions. And even though only 48% of the meters are outside the city limits, the population is way higher outside the city. I'd say it's probably close to 60% of the people, families, the kids.
Your big meters are all still...
Right, and all these meters in town that close down in the winter, all the restaurants and stuff, they're...
But the larger meters, your commercial, industrial customers are here inside the city still to this day. They're not...
Yes, that's
Other than maybe the...
Very true.
Out on Excavation Road, that's pretty good.
The highest usage is in town, but the highest population is out of town.
So if I can just ask a point of clarification regarding bringing it back to the Electric Utility Board, did I hear that because this utility board, or the utility, is owned by the city of Seward, which is a corporation, people that vote on the financials could never be outside of city limits? Although, do I hear that Nome has an advisory board that advises the council?
Well, it's a utility board, elected utility board, that does all the day-to-day board stuff. And generally, the city stays out of it till we provide the budget to them. And then the haggling starts about, you
And-
sure you need this, you sure you need that?
And all the people on the board are within city limits? Okay, so
But
that's where I was
again,
lost.
It's just a handful of
Yeah, no-
residences outside. of-
Nome is, most of the population lives in the city
Right.
limits.
Rural Assembly and School Board. You got the school board that runs the schools, hire and fire the teachers, all of that. But the ultimate say-so on how much money they have to operate with resides with this thing.
So, as a committee, would everyone, I think what I'm gathering is that in our presentation to council, that we would recommend council investigate or research the possibilities of creating an SES electric utility board.
Yes.
Yes.
And our question through the council to the city attorney would be, would it be required that all board members were City of Seward residents? Or could they be business owners?
They may have to just define strictly what the board can and can't do,
Right.
kind of deal.
That's another good point. And is there any way to provide a seat or two that maybe do not vote, but are there to discuss and advise, or even 3 seats of people outside of city limits? Just explore the options of what that would look like.
I would like to see them from outside the city too, because the members of this board that live outside the city have been most helpful too.
Absolutely.
So I think we would be missing a lot of knowledge if we didn't include people from outside the city.
I think it's just that legal issue of whether or not,
Yeah,
what kind of authority can we give
Yeah.
somebody from outside? But if it's 99%, advisory.
Speaking from a person that lives outside the city limits, I would still be in favor of a board, even if it had to be people, because they would learn about the electric system, whereas the council members have to learn about everything in the city.
Yeah.
They can't focus in on something that is fairly complex.
And the AdHoc group, the PACAP, they can be from outside the city,
Right.
but they can't really make proclamations but they,
They're strictly advisory. They have-
yeah, strictly advisory. So, but planning and zoning, they can't, they have more power, and so they have to be inside the city.
So I move that we say that they should make a utility board, and we would like to see some members from outside the city,
If
if
possible.
possible.
Okay.
And can we just do that?
Perfect. That's
Yeah,
great.
and I just want to say, like, in Nome, I mean, electricity is not the only utility. I mean, we have water and sewer, and that, in Nome, it covers that as well. So
Good
that's
point.
sort of a thing, like, maybe the people outside the city, they have the electric, but do they have the city water and sewer, right? So
Right.
it gets a little
Yeah,
bit,
that's a good point.
yeah.
Yes. And so maybe that's another point that council could explore, is just making a utility board. I know in my years of council experience, you balance a budget and study a budget and study the rate studies and study the capital improvements lists and get to know all the directors and learn about all your streets and your water and there's a lot to learn. And if you could create something to condense that, that would be great. Any further discussion? We got a general idea of what we would like to present there, Kelly? Okay, perfect. Megs?
I was just
Yeah.
asking Phil if garbage pickup was part of the utility board too.
It sends shudders because it was every meeting, we had to talk about the dump. Every meeting.
Well,
For years and years and years. And I get off the utility board, get elected to city council, and now we're gonna have a new dump, and all of a sudden now it's the council, every meeting.
So
But
that
what
would be,
what I
yeah.
really appreciated, to finish about the utility boards, when I got on there, I knew nothing, right? But there were people that served on that board for 15, 20 years. They knew every generator, they knew every telephone pole, they knew everything that's been done over the last 20, 30 years, and it just slowly revolves versus a council that in 3 years you could have totally brand new people.
If they do have a board, I would suggest too that the term limits, Chugach got rid of their term, or they made term limits where you can only serve twice. So you get them in, you get them educated, and get them out.
No.
You know, and Fairbanks has had a super stable board, Golden Valley Electric. These people got on there, learned the system, and then they ran it really well, even though they have the highest cost of electricity on the Mill Belt. But that's because of where they are, and they had never any natural gas except what they had to buy from Chugach. They actually did that. They bought gas from Chugach to run in Chugach's turbines and then ship the power all the way to Fairbanks.
Awesome. So in an effort to keep on going,
But yeah, and not have term limits on the
I agree. I would
On
make
the
that,
board.
yeah.
Anything over 90 maybe will, age limit maybe.
No discrimination. Okay, so moving forward, we'll move on to item 8D, approval of the September 5th, 2023 minutes. They are on the back side of the agenda. I don't know if anyone had a chance to review them. I did. They looked fine to me.
They look fine. I move
Any
that
object-
we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, any objection? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8E, approval of the September 11th, 2023 meetings. I'll need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and those are on the other page, and just to be completely transparent, I didn't think it through. Kelly wasn't going to be here, so I did my best guess. I knew the time that we started, ended, I knew who was here, and the agenda item was one item, so that is what I pieced together. So I strongly invite any changes or additions or recommendations to that.
I was on the phone and wasn't able to talk, so I think it was,
You were a
I
listener?
don't have a comment on that.
Okay.
I wonder what I commented. It says Meg's commented.
I know, I was trying to go from my memory, and I'm sorry. I just
Fill in the
remember.
blank.
Was that the one at noon?
Yes.
If anybody, well, it looks like it's probably gonna, it might be the last meeting, but if there's ever more meetings, and especially if Linda's not here and you don't see me, call me. I run around like a chicken with my head cut off, multitasking, and I forgot about that one. And if anybody would call me, I would have got down here as fast as traffic allows.
I will remember that. So any additions, deletions, subtractions? Did anyone make a motion to put it on the floor? Sorry.
This is regarding September 11th?
Yes.
Kaluza moved, McCracken seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any objections to the minutes? Seeing none, those are approved. And I will make sure that both those minutes make it to the city council packet. Item 8F, discuss letters to council and Curtis Thayer. I'll go ahead and start with the letter from me. If somebody wants to make a motion to put it on the floor, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Dang it. Okay,
They're
so
working together, I can tell.
the letter from me reads, "To Mr. Thayer, as our ad hoc committee completes the tasks of Seward City Council, the Seward City Council had given us, and we wrap up loose ends, we realize we would be remiss if we didn't reach out and offer an apology for canceling your presentation at the last minute. We felt under pressure to produce deliverables the council had asked for, and while we were all interested in learning from you and your experience with the electric utilities, we were directed by council to stick to the topics of salaries, office space, cybersecurity, equipment, and vehicles. It was never our intention to waste your time, and we hope you'll accept our heartfelt apology for doing so. We appreciate your willingness to speak with us and hope that you will accept an invitation to present at an upcoming city council meeting in the future. And I wanted to present this to everyone before I sent it. You guys gave me direction to write this at the noon September 11th meeting, and since I wrote this letter, it's my understanding they did not watch the meeting, but council has already invited Mr. Thayer back to present to them. So.
Randy, do you know if you guys agree back or when that will be, or if he was open to that?
I don't have an answer for that off the top of my head. I know that I'm the one that made the motion and then made the written request for him to come and speak to council.
Thank you.
I have two minor corrections.
Yeah.
Last paragraph, first line is a compound sentence, should have a comma after time.
Thank you.
And you might want to, in the last line of that last paragraph, say Seward City Council, you put Seward Council.
Okay.
You read it City Council, but you...
Sorry, yes. Okay.
Good arguments.
Yeah. Any other changes, deletions, subtractions? Okay, I'll go ahead and sign this and send it to the clerk's office because I believe the clerk knows how to get a hold of Curtis, unless anybody has his contact information and can guide me, but I feel like it's best served through the clerk's office.
Good job.
Thanks. I won't take all the credit. I had some help. And item 8F. Sorry, G. Oh, wait. Discuss letters to council. We didn't finish F.
Yeah, letter to council.
Excuse me.
Page 4.
So there is a letter to council, sorry. Thank you. On page 4. Thank you, Jim. Dear City Council and City Manager, after hearing the line of questioning in the September 11th, 2023 council meeting regarding Curtis Thayer's presentation, we wanted to clarify some incorrect assumptions that were made. We were and still are excited to hear from Mr. Thayer and learn from his expertise. There were many other presentations that we initially planned to hear while we produced the deliverables that council had asked for. However, after our first presentation with Mr. Hubbard went over an hour because we had so many questions, we soon realized that presentations would stand in the way of producing the council's deliverables in a timely manner. Our only regret is that we were unable to make the decision quickly enough and ended up canceling on Mr. Thayer at the last minute. We decided in our meeting at noon on September 11th that an apology was in order, and a letter has since been sent to Mr. Thayer apologizing for canceling on such short notice. Hopefully this will help you understand our decision. It was in no way because we didn't want to learn from an expert in the field. Sincerely, Seward AdHoc Committee for the Electric Utility. Any additions, deletions?
She's looking for a comma, I can tell.
No, I'm looking for more than that. That one
Yeah,
sentence
that one
that begins
sentence.
with however is a little bit too long and it's hard to like get the pause on. You do have to put city and Dear Seward Council again at the top. Seward City Council. And
Oh, okay.
that was Jim. But anyway, I'm just trying to like see if I can word that however sentence a little bit. to two or
However,
something.
our first presentation with Mr. Hubbard went over an hour because we had so many questions, period.
Yeah.
We soon realized that presentations would stand in the way of producing the council's
Perfect.
deliverable in a timely manner.
I second. Anybody else have any feedback?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the very bottom line, Seward Ad-Hoc Committee for the Electric Utility, would it be worth inserting Seward Electric Utility?
Yes, thank you.
I mean, he's statewide, Curtis was statewide.
Right.
And so we'll also add sewer, oh, we got that.
Can we help Can we
Seward.
come up with some suggested wording for this last sentence?
Sure.
It was in no way because, I'm trying to think if there's a better way to say that. Kelly, you know?
It was not because no. That's
We were looking forward to learn from an expert in the field, and unfortunately, we panicked. I'm sorry.
I mean the sentence after hopefully.
Oh, sorry.
Just above sincerely.
Yeah. Hopefully
Yeah.
this will help you understand our decision. It was not because.
It was not
How about
because.
if you just take out the no way?
Yeah, it was not because we didn't want to learn
Yeah,
from an expert in the
yeah,
field.
okay.
Okay. Happy?
Excellent.
Okay.
So you're going to send that letter to the clerk to council?
Yes. And I don't need to, do you guys want me to read that to the council at the next meeting? I'll read it at the next meeting. Sure.
Feel like getting up and talking.
And bring it as a lay down so members of the public can have copies?
Sure, and then email it sooner than later?
Yeah.
So that all the council can have it beforehand? Okay, let me find my... Any comments from the public? We're just cruising along here.
And we didn't panic.
7:36, sorry.
It was pretty obvious that we weren't going to be able to get our work done.
Right.
It was,
I'm sorry, that was inappropriate.
no, but we got your point.
Okay, so 8, new business, G. Looking for a motion and a second to discuss draft of ad hoc committee's work for the public.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, and
I'm going to give these out. You guys will have to share them because I only have a couple extras. So there's 3, maybe 1 for each row.
we got a motion and a second? Yes, okay. So you guys want me just to read the letter? It's kind of long. If I'm gonna read the letter, I might need a recess, because I just like a short 5-minute break.
I'd like to just preface because I wrote it with some help. I wrote it because it didn't at the time look like we were going to have a presentation with council, so we were trying to figure out, like, well, how can we make this presentable to the public? This could be the letter that we send to council. It could be a letter that we send to the Seward Journal. It could be a letter that we put online somewhere. Like, there's a lot of options, no matter what. And I think that it probably needs to be cut down or simplified depending on where we're going to send it. So I'm happy, like, I'm fully, like, aware that, like, we're gonna cut and change all this. It's a very rough draft. I just find it's easier to work on something instead of trying to all create something together. Please, like, take out what you don't like, add what you want to put in there. It's just a place to start.
So
Should we just start going through it?
Yes.
seems like depending on our target audience, so to speak, might depend on how we edit it.
I'm just picking up the one that I gave to the public. It came back because I don't have one.
Question, Madam Chair. The scope of this letter, would this be to the ratepayers? Would this be to the voters?
Good
To
question.
Electrical department administration?
Everybody.
It sounds
Everybody-
like it is to the citizens and the greater service area.
Again, because at the time that I was writing it, it was asked of me to write something to the citizens to present. But we may want to use this, or parts of this, or maybe none of it, and send it to council, or send it to...
So don't we answer to the council though? Remember, we tried to change some things in our deliverables on the very first meeting, and they told us no.
Right.
So isn't this really to them And then wouldn't we actually need the council's permission to send this out to the public or not?
I do not believe we need council's permission because it belongs to the body right now.
Okay.
That's my understanding. We could ask Chris, the clerk, or ask administration, or somebody to help
I
us.
just assume it was all
Decide for
public.
ourselves, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel like our reception by council has been satisfactory to myself and maybe to some of you, but I think a lot of members of the public have thought we were trying to do a good thing here. And I've had quite a few comments from the public that they liked the way we were handling what we were doing. The ones that watched on YouTube and stuff. So I think a lot of them absolutely would like to see this material.
I think so too. I've got a lot of response and a lot of thank yous, so all I do is show up and record it. So you all do all the work, so I felt kind of guilty.
I think we should skim through it though, and
Okay. So I'm gonna call for a short 5-minute recess and,
Drink some.
Do we also need to extend our meeting?
and maybe before we do that, we extend our meeting. I can't extend for long because I got my boy, but
half hour?
sure.
Okay.
Hopefully we're faster.
So we got a motion to extend
Second.
till 8:30, a second, and a motion to take a recess for 5 minutes and a second.
Aye.
Study, you sent me something, I apologize, I'm just so
You're just
backed against the wall, I can't even open my emails and stuff.
Oh, so, I sent you one of these, and
I don't know, guys said I didn't open my emails. You probably did.
So this one, I was trying to figure out when I'm comparing Nome's rates, Seward's, got Nome stuck in my head now. You know, and then these two, well, they're contributing all this money to the city. You know, so a chunk of that really staying in the city and getting used for not necessarily electric bill. So I basically said, well, if I took out $1 million pill out of this, what it did is dropped everybody's down a little bit. I wasn't very sure how fair that is or how to do that. Skip over that. But so it really dropped Seward's rates a little bit relative to Homer.
Just like if we take out our $3.5 million of debt that we want to.
Right.
We would definitely do it.
Or if Schmidt pays back their $1.5 million.
Yeah, well, we gotta keep, look, we could, if you wanna give it us in 3 chunks, $500 grand, for 3 years or 5 years, however you wanna do
See, we
it.
never asked the question, how's the loan structured?
Did they make money this year?
How's the loan structured? Where's the documents support that? Council should already have those questions.
I mean, did they make money this year? Didn't they actually at least break even or something?
You get a financial statement with the loan.
I thought there was some comment a while ago about hallelujah, they're basically paying their own way.
Yeah, I know, but back to what I'm saying, you get a financial statement
Right.
before you do a loan. Where are those?
Well, I mean, that's
And then
probably
the
loaning
loan
money
is-
to your brother going.
Then the loan is structured, you pay back every February, you pay back.
Well, I'm sure it's gonna be when you start making money, we want our money back.
You're listening to KIBH FM Seward.
Here's my latest and greatest.
I saw that.
Out of Seward's rates, just to reflect, their payment in lieu of taxes. So it lowered all 3 of our Seward rates a little bit relative to Homer and
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
we still have $1 million.
comfortable with,
They still have $1 million surplus.
yeah.
That means the rates are sufficient, you
I
can
like
generate that
those
much profit.
Yeah.
I like those graphs better than the table that's in here.
And that one's been changed.
Oh, that's a good idea. Ask him to make the graphs.
Or maybe
pres-
not graphs, but just like a table with those numbers, because I
yes.
don't think the colors will translate well. But
Yeah,
like make
she's
this.
asking to have this
Yeah.
like that
Uh,
for this letter. But we
No, but
shouldn't have.
have this information here.
Oh,
Not the graphs, but this. It's the same information, right? It's just in words and stuff.
Right.
Because I don't think the colors will go like translate well whenever they print things off. Wherever it goes to, it's not gonna. You can put both, but
It could be hashtagged or dotted or something, so
True.
we went to black.
true.
Yeah.
Boy, you're gonna make me learn more.
It's just a keystroke, mister. It's a keystroke.
But this one, I actually subtracted that, our payment in lieu of taxes. Said, well, really, that's, our cost is really, compared to Homer's and Two Hatches, is actually a little less. But
I think that's this one. This one did too. So
I like your charts. It sure makes it easy to
it does.
to
It's much
see
clearer.
one of those?
the difference.
I guess we,
They were emailed to you, weren't they?
no, that was the earlier one. This one
What's
actually, because
missing is our guess
I
of how
actually
high the
lowered
home rates are
Seward's
going to
rate
go and
by
how high the
that
Chugach rates are.
little
For
bit.
3 years.
Going, well, I don't want to give Homer and Chugach any more credit than they deserve.
No, at all.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
No, it's, Google graphing is,
Good job.
well, yeah, also my buddy Alan, he's my analyst guy, he's kind of, I got the back sheet that's got all the numbers, and he's checking the math, and going, okay, well, here, let's make a Google graph. And so he had to put it in this little format, and just, boom, there it is.
I didn't really respond to your heat pump paper either, though, but that is something that should be presented
To where, to who, to how, yeah, I agree.
to us. That would have been as helpful as Curtis Thayer would be to see the prospective growth.
And I actually
New
cleaned up
demand.
the
Because
grammar.
all of that's going to make growth in the electrical, which is going to increase
Say that in your comments.
the
So we'll go ahead and
amount of
call
money the city gets.
the meeting back to order at 7:47. There we go. Cheesy. So everyone have a chance to look over the letter. Yeah, some of us were using the bathroom.
So, what's the plan for finding out, so if we can write this to the public, or if we need the council's permission?
Correct.
Do we add the city council and citizens?
I think we should do that. That's a great idea. I think we should just move forward as if, and if they tell us, by gosh, you can't put that out,
Then everybody will demand it.
yeah.
Then we'll,
What's the secret?
Right.
So
I don't know how it leaked.
So what I am hearing is that we're going to email this to city council. Is that correct? Consensus? And,
And hand
Why
over
not?
it to Chris, huh? Or email it to Chris.
yeah, if we email it to Chris and ask him to forward it to all administration and council, and, I mean, I think he's even got a public mailing list. I don't know. I've never heard anyone using that to distribute information, but Daryl, this would be a question for you. And I guess just for the record, what the committee wants to make clear is, we delivered council's deliverables, and we all put in a lot of hard work and time between our finance experience and our retired utility experience and our past utility board and our engineering and our troublemaking.
Geezer.
Our old geezer? No. Just joking, Jim.
No, we really had a great talent pool.
Yes.
That was way more than what council has if they're looking at electric stuff.
Correct.
I mean, we were focused, we had the expertise to focus on this topic.
Absolutely, and I think each one of us applied because we were passionate about our utility boards. So, I was just talking to my children about this. You gotta be careful when you get passionate about something. Because sometimes your passion can be interpreted in different ways to different people. So, as a committee that is passionate to distribute our information and our hard work, I hear that we want to present it to council. Daryl, the question for you was, Chris has a mailing list. Have you ever heard of somebody sending something to the clerk and asking the clerk to send information?
Yeah, I have not, just from the public. It's one thing for the council to direct the clerk to distribute something to the public by whatever means possible. I have not heard that that's been done from just the general.
Okay.
Talking about that thing you just handed out.
Yeah, how we're going
Could
to...
we send it to the Journal in a condensed version and saying you can read the full thing at such and such?
Yeah, you can provide a link to a public record. I mean, if you... My understanding when Brenda was a clerk, and I don't know if things have changed, but anything that becomes a laydown at a meeting goes on to the legislative history, and there is a link to that document.
It does.
Okay, so if we email this to council so that they have plenty of time to review it before the meeting, I'm already reading something to council at the next meeting. We could, again, read to the council, although I feel like that was misinterpreted, so maybe...
Could be called hijacking.
Yeah, well, maybe one of us gets up first and speaks and says, you know, we don't know how else to get this information to the public. We're really passionate. We don't want to make it look like we're stepping on anyone's toes. This is what we have. Although we did discuss earlier, some of us just showed up, we did discuss going to the city manager and asking the city manager if they are on board for a work session with us, and if they are, to have them contact the mayor to schedule a work session, just as Chair Member Paquette was successful in doing. Because this letter alone is 3 full pages, and then we got more here, and we have another report from Mr. Kaluza about the impact of heat pumps coming our way. We just have so much information, and we are passionate to share it.
So just fill me in, maybe I missed it because I was late. What's the status on work session? You've made a request?
We're going to.
The committee has made the request for me to make the request to the city manager to ask if we can reschedule a work session with council so that we can present the information that we have gathered since the conception of our board.
Was it not a special meeting?
Mm-hmm. We're requesting a special meeting so that it will be before the regular scheduled city council meeting on September 25th.
Next Monday.
I see. Okay, because you never got a response to that letter you wrote when they canceled our last work session.
I did get a response, I'm sorry. I get a lot of information, and I sometimes forget to ask Chris to forward the response, and sometimes when they're a thread they get, but the mayor did respond something to me about
something
it was...
About we had time to do our little presentations. I think
that was the first response, but then I asked for clarification, and she did say that it could have been a miscommunication because she thought that that there were gonna be several committee members not available for the work session, and then I clarified there was only one very crucial committee member that we really wanted to have present, and that I looked forward to moving forward and having better lines of communication. So a condensed version for the Journal, I hear.
I wonder in the first sentence, were we only there to do the rebuild if the election failed?
No.
We were there for more than that, weren't we?
They said for both cases. They wanted the information for both, because remember they said even if it does sell, it's going to be at least a year. They have to notify Chugach.
Right.
They have to have a 12-month notice that they're going to stop buying bulk power from them.
So can we cut out that last phrase in that first sentence? I'm just trying to, because that said in the event the election fails.
I have no objection.
Or how would you reword
Yeah,
that first
having
sentence?
received no questions or comments from council, we thought we could also share our findings and comments with our community and what we heard. I would just leave that off.
Where are you?
At the bottom.
I'm sorry, am I even on the
No.
wrong page?
No, you're right. You're on the right page, but let's. I'm taking.
Just leave everything. This is not too long for all the work.
Well, I think
It is really
that it's
long.
actually
So take out in the event the
Pretty good.
October
On the
3rd election
second
cell
line.
fails.
Uh-huh.
Please, we need to cut it down.
Yeah.
So.
Jim, did you have,
They were asking where, they were talking about, in the event of October 3rd election to sell fails, that's on the second line.
Yeah, I took that
Okay.
out. It's gone.
and then Becky,
The last sentence of that paragraph, having received no questions or comments
Okay.
from council, we thought we would also share our findings, recommendations with our community. That's gone.
okay.
Yeah, I would just leave that off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. So going back to, I have, my understanding is that we'll present this whole letter to council through email. We'll read it to council and present it as a laydown. And then for the journal, we're gonna make a condensed version with possibly providing a link to the city's website for where they can get the full letter.
I mean, it might almost be better to like offer a link to all of our documents, like the recommendations, the whole presentation document you guys did with the budget, with all of those things. That's where all the information is coming from.
We'll ask admin to do that for us.
Well, what it would be is you would compile all of that in one laydown, and then somebody would open that and they could have access to it all. You could have the budget, you could have your report, you could have that report, you could have this, and it would be all there.
Online.
I believe so, yes. Becky agrees. I've sent links to legislative history to people before, and it worked, but I mean, that was a couple years ago. So, Skip, do you know? Daryl?
What's that?
You know who's good at that is Chris.
What was the question?
If we provide reports as a laydown, then it goes into legislative history under,
Becomes a public record.
it becomes a public record, and it goes under either packets or minutes or something, and then there's a link, and you can click that, you can copy and paste. Once you click it, you can copy and paste it and provide the link. It's really long.
Is it possible to put a link to the Sacktown YouTube because all of the meetings are recorded on there? Or maybe just with the journal article? I can even contact them. I feel bad because, you know, all the PADCAP meetings are recorded, and that's just an AdHoc group, but these aren't. So the one meeting that I missed, there's no notes from the city, there's going to be nothing in the history of that. And
Right.
I feel so bad because that was an important meeting.
Right. Yeah. Does anybody have any objections to adding somewhere in this letter that all meetings have been recorded and can be found on Sacktown YouTube?
excellent.
Yep.
And also, it'd be nice if we could have something in a link to where they can get to our budget.
Well, and there's a few blanks here where I was like, we need to figure out where these things
Yes.
live online.
And
Because I didn't know where, and I will add that in there.
Table one below, or attachment one, or something like that.
Put it on Google Docs and share it public, and be there for all eternity.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
Just create a Gmail account,
So you have two of those.
Create a Gmail account, throw it all on Google Docs, and share it publicly.
When you have, well,
When you get password,
I don't want to ask IT that, though.
yes, Skip.
You know, you need to give some thought to the least common denominator in the process. I mean, we know that probably 160 or so people watch the YouTube videos from the council meetings each week. So in a town of a couple thousand adults, 160 watch the council meetings. The question really comes down to is how many people are going to basically get into the weeds on the budget, the detail stuff. I mean, it's good thought process and it's good to think that way, but we got to be thinking reality. We're trying to get them an executive summary, some real tight details. If they want to get there, we can point them in that direction.
Okay.
And I think if it's a lay down that you're giving the council, if I'm not mistaken, it ends up going into the legislative history or packets as a lay down.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be in there. So that's where to look. But to expect 500 people in town to go look in this detailed information, we're probably looking for this group to help them navigate through the weeds, give them a real good tight summary of things. That's just my thought process.
But don't you think there'll be 50 or 60 people that probably would like to see that?
No, Kevin, I agree. It's having it out there, whether it's in Gmail or whether it's a lay down, that's fine. But I think putting something into the...
So this letter, though, should give them the place to look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, that's why I like having a condensed version for the journal or even for Facebook, and then showing people like where they can go to a bigger laydown or something, where all of our documents live.
Yep.
So
I would almost, I would like to recommend in our condensed version to have a paragraph that says you can access all reports and budgets generated by the committee by going to cityofseward.net, click on government, click on council, click on legislative history. I mean, there is a maze to get there. And
That's if they won't even post it for us.
who?
Or will they post it if you give it to them?
As a lay down?
yeah, if it's a laydown, we can find
Yeah.
those links and just pick those specific links to
Yeah.
put into something we post either on Facebook or on the journal, not in the paper, like they would come out written weird on the paper, but if people were online, they could just click it and go directly to that laydown.
You
I
can
think.
provide the link online, correct, but I think whatever we write for the journal, I personally, and if I don't have the support, it's okay, I would like to have the actual clicks to get there, because not only is it educational for this, but it's educational for people that want to get more involved in government, how to find their way to legislative history.
There's Lake Shore, there's two like that, Yeah.
I was referring to something in print, Wolf.
So that takes care of both
Okay.
of your spots.
And the journal has it online too. so that
Yeah.
they should write up online as well.
Mine was purely just for the paper, my suggestion, but yes, I would like a link in anything that's electronic. That would be great.
So can we skip forward, or do we want to go through this paragraph by paragraph? Because we only have 25 minutes left.
Yeah, and I'm still doing stuff with the first paragraph.
Don't worry about
We got an editor
grammar.
here,
Yeah, don't worry
don't
about
we?
grammar. Like, let's
No,
not
this
get
is not
stuck in
grammar.
that.
This is I'm taking stuff from down here on this paragraph and moving it up here, because you're repeating 15% and 2 cents a kilowatt twice. I'm trying to like condense it by, getting those ideas together, so.
Or we can just take it out.
Maybe you two can go out to lunch and
Well, I know,
Yeah.
we could, I mean, I just,
So I would just like to see the two of you work on a condensed, the two of you work on this not condensed version, and then by condensing this, I think you two would also be the best to come up with the condensed version for the journal. Are you guys okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
What timeline are we looking at here?
It needs to be to Michael to be published in the Seward Journal no later than Monday.
But there might be other people that have input, Kevin.
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Yeah,
so you could do
they've
it by
taken things
tomorrow.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Yes.
Tuesday by noon, sorry.
Okay, but do we want to have this in the journal before we
But-
go through
but
the
you-
process of trying to get a special meeting?
You need to contact Sam McDavid
No.
ASAP to let him know that you have so many column inches approximately that he'll...
So I'd like to address Kelly's question. I think she had a very good question. Do we want to get this in the paper regardless as soon as possible? Or do we want to wait to see if we are granted a work session?
Was the work session not, was it not scoped for the 25th?
No, we have to
haven't
ask
asked
for it.
Oh,
And so my only
special
concern
meeting.
is if we wait to get something in the paper,
the election will go by.
I'm just gonna look, so I'm looking at my calendar. We could still get something in the paper the week before the election. There is still an opportunity.
So I see a couple things that we really need to address though in a couple of the paragraphs.
Yeah, please.
Please.
One thing I don't understand is the operating income is here. We have these and then it says 90,000, 70,000, 160,000. What are those very small numbers compared to the others?
I got this table from Skip, so hopefully he can explain that a little bit more. My understanding was that that would be our profit.
Our profits?
Yeah.
Yes,
After 13
operating
meeting
income.
expenses?
Skip? Did you have a second?
Can you help us?
So on the handout, I just show you these numbers here. The
He has
operating
one.
income. Why are those like 90,000? It's like nothing. 90.
I love our meetings.
And we're talking millions.
Because that's what your net income is.
Net income
Yeah,
per year.
yeah. That's 2024.
What's the,
If I'm not-
I suppose we
if I'm
could have
not
had another
mistaken-
column with the total.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken,
revenue
you
and
can look
then-
at your 2024 budget. This is what your 2024 city approved budget was on an income basis.
Well, excuse me for sounding so naive about it, but where does the $1 million going into the general fund fall into that? Isn't that actually part of profit?
No,
it says it excludes.
it is not. It is an expense. Go ahead, Skip.
It's included, it's good.
So,
Okay.
if you read the footnote, Kevin, operating income excludes the PILT and the right-of-way, which for cash flow forecast is offset by the 1.6 million depreciation, okay?
All right.
Therefore, the budget cash flow balances, okay? So if you look at your budget and you first receive your first draft budget from Lori, somehow the cash flow section is taken out. It's basically, and Rissy knows this more than anybody, your budget that the city produces, there's an income statement portion, and then you move over to your cash flow section, which moves into your net position statement, okay? And I tell people, and people will disagree with me, government accounting is complicated, okay? It's not like private accounting. It's got another layer of work to it, okay? That's what makes it complicated, but there's reasons why the government has made it that way. So in this case here, this income level would look like a private for-profit business income. The government takes it to another level, they do a cash flow where they bring back the depreciation, and then they pay out what they call cash transfers for other services, and this would be to the general fund for the bill. Why the general fund transfer? You know, I have a lot of questions about why it is what it is, but we don't need to complicate the discussion.
Okay.
We're just working with what is there now.
I just didn't understand that, and I think it's clear enough now.
So let me just state one more thing so that we're clear. So whether you're looking at what, in the world of accounting or finances, there's called level of materiality. If something's materially different, like $500,000, it's worth bringing up. So in this case here, your net income on an adjusted basis, or after your adjustments occurred through your assumptions, you ended up increasing your income from $90,000 to $160,000. If you look at your cash flow is going to resemble a similar trend where you're going from, I can't remember the number, but it's somewhere from 50,000 up to, please don't put me on a record.
I'm not.
Yeah, I don't do that lightly. So the point is that the income is 160. Your cash flow after you've paid the right-of-way, the PILT plus depreciation is about 180. So 160 income versus 180 cash. It's an immaterial difference. So That's why I don't try to add the cash.
That's why the numbers just look so small to me.
Yeah, I don't.
To what we're talking
I
about.
generally don't try to throw, if there was a big abnormality in the cash flow difference, I would have thrown that at you and talked about it. But it's very much correlates, whether it's 160 or 180. It's chump change, okay? It's a half a dozen trips to Anchorage, or it's whatever, it's small compared to the size of the budget. So I wouldn't get hung up on the cash flow. That's why the footnotes, if people want to be really honing in on this and understand it, read the footnote. That's what that footnote says.
Okay.
We good?
Yep.
Can I, go ahead.
I just skimmed through the whole letter, and I'm thinking about the Hubbard report, or the summary at least. And so I think what this letter maybe misses is that, what you got out of Hubbard at the meeting, which was, we just added the payments for the $3.5 million over, 2 or 3 years, right? And so that difference isn't in here, I don't think,
Point of order, where's the $3.5 million, Meg? I don't get it.
So Skip, you weren't here, and Randy Wells was here, and he was trying to explain to me, but when I went up for citizen comments after Mike Hubbard's presentation, there was infrastructure, capital improvements that were being paid back, being completed and paid back within 2 to 3 years. And go ahead.
Point of order. We had this discussion, but it's worth bringing up again. Operating incomes, which include your depreciation for capital items, is one set of how this city runs and what you balance the budget based on. The problem with, and I'll just be respectful, the problem with people who are not financially in deep financial understanding of financial systems, governmental accounting, just finances in general, and capital assets, confuse the fact that, we're going to spend $8 million re-upgrading the poles and doing this and doing that. Has nothing, the cash you spend to finish your infrastructure project has very little to do with your operating budget. That $8 million that you're going to spend will get depreciated out in a depreciation schedule. The depreciation life of those assets are dictated by the federal government. They could be 7 years for a boom truck. They could be 30 years for a set of poles or wire. Spreading $7 million out over 30 years versus 5 years is why I asked the question that Monday night for the public to understand that was the schedule for depreciation considered on a long-term basis in the rate study? Because at $1.6 million, okay, in 3 years from now, that could go to $800,000. Well, that's not very prudent thought process. Thinking short-term on a rate, but the long-term is what's really necessary. So the point is that, Meg, is that whether we spend $8 or $10 more million on to finish the product has nothing to do with the rates, okay? The rates are, it's a stable process. It's a marathon. The rates are a marathon process, okay? And the construction project is a sprint. It's a sprint to get the damn things done in 2 years, okay? They're totally different. Cash to finish a project is unhinge it with the budget and what you're looking at. And that's where I'll always be around in the background to help provide that safety net for you, that not to get into that trap, because it's very difficult for people to understand how to disconnect cash spent on construction projects and an operating budget that dictates rates. Is that fairly clear?
Well, it's clear, except is it clear to Hubbard? Because it seems like he took that $3.5 million and he said that's why your rates have to go up extraordinarily, because you're paying it off in the next 2 to 3 years.
Or depreciating it. Is that the word that we're supposed to be using?
Both.
Or doing something with it. We need to understand.
I mean, that's how he justified his rate increase.
Yeah, but okay, I'm going to be very respectful. Okay, we have a gentleman that I to have anybody in this town that's been around, that's going to stick around, that's going to help us work through our problems. In other words, this was a This was a project that was on the capital project list for probably 7, 8 years. The linemen knew it was there to do the Nash Road projects, okay? I'm sorry, I gotta regress a little bit, but it helps preface this conversation. So the linemen knew that things had to get done on Nash Road. They saw it coming, but you didn't have a strong enough leadership in the director at that time or city council to recognize their own capital improvement list. It was on the doggone list for 6 years. Spend $6 million and do the Nash Road project. Yeah, it ain't these guys. They're just doing the work they're asked to do. It's the leadership. So we failed to not only recognize and do the project in a timely manner before it becomes a dire issue. 7 years ago, we stopped funding the damn thing in the MRF. I mean, I'm sorry to say, the council was, the blank look was on when I brought up MRF that hasn't been funded in any department for 7 years.
Except the harbor.
Because it's in a revenue
Enterprise.
It's in a revenue mechanism that's automatically kicked in.
Oh.
Otherwise, you wouldn't know. Okay? It is automatically part of a revenue piece in the harbor. Otherwise, that would have got chucked out. So, it's not that the sky is falling, Meg. We know what we needed to get done. These guys knew what needed to get done. It's the leadership. And so we have a person in there now that came in, recognized, however, that we need to get this thing done. And by the way, we want to do this, this, and this, okay? And so the project gets done. How we got here today is, it's almost in the past. We're moving forward. That's what I like. We're finally getting there, okay? We can beat up everything about that process. But the problem is that the electrical director is not a finance director, okay? He comes out of a large East Coast utility organization, and he just played a small role in a much bigger organization. And so he's trying to basically bring his knowledge and wisdom here to help us get through this process. He doesn't have all the answers. We don't have all the answers. I surely don't have all the answers. But we're surely all willing to come together, which you have. God forbid, I just love you guys and what you're able to achieve. You don't realize how masterful of a feat you guys just accomplished. I'll save that for another day, but the point is that the director's not a finance director. We don't have a finance director. We haven't had a finance director for 4 years. If you had a finance director here, you might have some of Skip Ryerson, you might have some of a governmental accounting person that could sit down and help the director understand, help the electrical personnel understand, help you understand what's all involved. So when Rob's talking about spending money, that's all he knows, because that's the only information he's been provided about how to do this. I got to spend money. Any natural person would think, I got to spend $7 more million, it's going to come back into your rates. He doesn't understand capital assets. He doesn't understand debt financing. He doesn't understand depreciation, He doesn't understand the MRF. And if he doesn't understand it, in all honesty, do you think Mike is going to understand whatever our director is sharing with him? Because he's talking to this guy. So it's information from somebody who doesn't have all the knowledge to explain to a rate study fella who's just taking whatever you want, I'll take and put it in here, okay? So for Mike Hubbard's defense, he's doing the job he's asked with the information at hand. So when I came to the council tonight and I asked, by the way, is the MRF kind of double dipping? Because you can't have depreciation and MRF for $500,000 and this target margin for $500,000, okay? But I'll just be generous and say the MRF. And they agree with me on the MRF. We didn't understand the MRF, so the MRF's got to come out, okay? But that's the process that you get to experience in a democracy.
Right.
We all have something to bring to the table. So they learned more about MRF, and then they're going to make their adjustment. I don't know when, if it's in this rate study or when it's going to come. I would hope it come before the election on a revised rate study. But do you get an appreciation for everybody, I believe, is trying to make a difference and do what's right? They just don't have all the understanding of the pieces. And so that's part of what I'm trying to share with you. Rob's only doing what he can pass along to a guy that he hasn't been providing information from a finance department here at the city. So I'm not trying to excuse anybody. If you're in the big games,
I also believe if you're gonna step up to the big leagues, you better be able to swing at the big balls, okay? And you can't punt, you know?
Skip, we gotta move on, we only got 10 more minutes.
Thank you.
And I have 3 quick ones here on the letter. One is in number 2, you have the automation for the backup generator to save on overtime. That's not correct.
That was directly out of the stuff that we gave council.
But it won't really, the overtime is not the big deal for automating the generation. What it will do is speed up the outage restoration time where the people's power is going to get turned back on quicker. That makes revenue because while the meters aren't turning, you're not making anything. So I'm thinking we could probably just cross 2 off. Having another lineman physically present, I mean,
These numbers correspond exactly to what we gave council, that's what I was following,
Okay.
but I also had questions about why we had some of that in there, so if you want to cross it off, we can cross it off.
What do you think? I mean, it's not going to save a lot on overtime because you start the generators, you're still going to have a lineman be called out to go and check on them.
Yeah, you still have to start these, you still have to figure out what's wrong.
Right, and the linemen are going to go do their other thing, but the operator...
They can be idling, but
Yeah.
you're not
You're not gonna flip the switch
open
until...
up the switches until you figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But this, okay, so I can understand we should take out the overtime, but this is recommendations for other things, so.
Right.
It's still a recommendation, right?
So I mean, we can put it in there, but at least
Can we just say to decrease
cross off,
power restoration time?
cross off to save on overtime.
And Kevin, is it okay to write in instead to decrease power restoration time?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Because it still should, because when all the reclosers and breakers are automated, then you guys don't have to go, if the line trips to Chugach, you want to isolate, start the generators, start closing in the reclosers.
You still have to find out.
If it's the transmission line that's gone, the new modern relays will tell you where the fault is. You open the switches, Chugach tests the line on their end, and then you start from your end. You know,
Kelly, I wanted to revise it to more common words. How about just shorten outage time?
I put complete the automation for the backup generator to decrease the time it takes to restore power.
There you go.
Perfect. And then the next page, number 4, it says, with our current GM leaving at the end of the year to work for Homer Electric. Is that public knowledge
Yeah,
now?
I had that underlined too.
Okay.
Who said that?
I don't think that's public knowledge.
The rumor factory.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is it any knowledge?
I was told that by the mayor, I believe.
Rumor has it.
The mayor told you that?
Yeah.
Well, now it's on public record. They're recording.
All right, cool, we'll cross it out.
Okay, yeah, so I think we can still save
we
everything
are-
that we wrote in there.
We are acutely aware of the need not to.
But,
Cool.
okay. And then on 5, advocate for legislation or research that would require cruise ships to use shore power while in port. We were told that the majority of work to allow cruise ships to hook up is completed or in no. And that was dropped. That part of the 20 million rebuild, they canceled the transformer for the cruise ship docks.
Because I thought that Rob was saying it was in progress now, and it would cost like another $12 million to complete it.
It's been taken off the project.
Okay.
Yeah, to hook it up, you need to put the line.
Yeah, so that,
down to the
we want to advocate for it, yes,
Yes,
but
cool.
it's not in progress.
That was one of the things I had questions about, so we can take that whole
And
sentence out.
that's really all I saw in the letter that...
Are we erasing all of 4 just for clarification or just first sentence?
No, just
Just
the
the
part
first
about the
sentence.
GM leaving, going to...
Okay, so just start it with, we are acutely aware of our need.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, is there a thing in here, which one is the one about, Kevin's suggestion about, about hiring TDX to have another company take over, is it?
Oh, yeah, to
Contract
hire
Contract out for...
the management
It's not in here, is it? I scanned it, I didn't see it.
Do you want it added?
Have it in.
Well, it wasn't our
You know what?
recommendations that we.
Or at least a long-term commitment or something.
We should put in, I think we should put a paragraph in that there are businesses that manage for short periods, under contract, small utilities.
Okay. I agree, and I
It should be
also,
considered or looked at or something.
I don't know how to write it.
I
And
thought
I-
that was in our presentation.
yeah, but for this letter, I also would like,
Not in the presentation, otherwise it would be in here, because I used the exact things you guys
Oh.
put in the presentation to go through these numbers.
so if we could add that, and then also.
I don't know if we should mention TDX by name.
No.
Because, because.
Consider
we-
using
No.
a contracted company
Yeah, to take over the management,
to take over.
or assist with the management.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
I got to intervene. The guy that's, you got a quarterback on your team, okay? Whether you like the person or not, he lives here, he's here. Not only he's basically stepped out of his current employment role to gain a better paycheck for himself because that's what he was offered on a contract basis. So I think it's just premature to be talking about any other thing other than the guy's here. He's just working for us on a contract basis, not on an employment basis. So until that, I think you're just distracting the whole conversation, talking about his employment status and what is.
no, we got rid of that.
got rid of
So
that.
we're on to,
I just heard something.
No.
No.
We're talking about, when his contract ends, we're gonna need somebody to run the utility in the interim.
I get that, Kevin,
Yeah.
but that's 3 months down the road. It's just premature. We're
3 months?
confusing the
It's
conversation.
not very far.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
not
not
very
very
far.
far. As much as it takes
I
to
get
hire
that,
somebody.
but
It's-
that's not the.
So Skip, this is just a recommendation to the council that this is another option they can look at.
okay.
Maybe
so-
they already know that?
I don't know, I just think it's maybe premature, but that's just my own comments.
So,
Skip, thank you, and I think there's two things that were jumbled there, so we crossed off talking about where the GM was or what his work contract is, and we were skipping to a new suggestion, adding a suggestion that there is a possibility for outside firms to manage the utility should we need it, because one of the big fires that I'm receiving or perceiving from the audience is that, well, Rob's leaving in 3 months and we're gonna be left with nobody. The department's short-staffed and we won't have anybody. That was the intention behind it.
Nobody's working on that either.
Quick,
Yeah.
can I have a quick rebuttal, 30 seconds?
Sure.
So, well, I don't disagree at all with your forward thinking, and I like the long-term vision. I thought the messaging here was about what you're putting together to put in front of the voters before October 3rd. And provided some short-term information about what their rates look like underneath your recommendation at 1.6.
it is.
Yeah.
It's
It
both.
is. And
Yeah.
isn't this a positive thing that there are companies out there
Options.
that could take this on? Just let the people
Yeah,
know.
no doubt, Kevin. I just question how much information the public can absolutely absorb.
We'll give them the budget.
It's great, Kevin, it's great to have that, I love the conversation here, but the problem is that how do you put the genie back in the bottle once it's out? And, then you got employees that are going, whoa, what the hell is this all about? I got
Okay.
a contract.
Well, there's another
Skip, I think
possibility.
there's-
Skip, you and I could run this company.
No,
But my wife would kill me if I said I could do it. But there are people available
there
that.
are, yeah. Well, you
Skip,
and
I
are
think
going,
we're
like,
talking about two different things though, as one, a letter to send to council, which would be longer form, and then a shorter condensed version that possibly could go.
Before anybody else speaks, we got 1 minute. I need a motion and a second to extend the meeting.
Motion to extend for 10 minutes.
Okay,
Second.
go for it, Daryl.
I just want to observe here
Thanks,
that
Skip.
Thank you.
part of this whole process has been driven by the fact that you've got at least 5 members of the board of directors who want to unload the electric utility, for whatever reasons.
Right.
I don't understand them, but maybe they're out there. I think that's that's the genie in the, or the elephant in the room here, is that that's the message that they're gonna continue to sell. They're gonna be out there arguing before the election, even though I think the election probably, actually, probably been set aside, but maybe it hasn't. The whole, their whole message, their whole focus has been and will continue to be, the sky is falling, we gotta sell the utilities. We gotta sell the crown jewels here.
Well, they appointed us, they created this committee for transparency, and we crunched our numbers, and I'm sorry, they can say the sky is falling, and we'll say, oh, but here.
And that's why I'm just saying, you gotta do what you're doing here. I mean, you gotta finish the job, and however it falls.
We basically finished the job. We're doing this out of the goodness of our heart.
Yeah. Right. I have a question is your name Jason?
It is.
Yeah. Were there any power plant operators here at any of the meetings? Do you know?
There was not.
Okay, just linemen.
Yes.
Okay, we appreciate you being here. I just want to make sure we were correct and only saying linemen in our writing. Thank you.
Go for it.
A lot of this started when Rob presented 4 options to the council, and that was do nothing, and rebuild, sell, and this is not in order, but the 4th one was other companies managing the utility in the interim until something was figured out. So sorry to go back to what you were discussing. That was one of the 4 options presented to council by Mr. Montgomery.
I did not remember that.
Yeah, I didn't remember that either. So thank you for the history. I appreciate that. And I was actually gonna go back to that as well. So I think one of the messages that we want to convey is that we are driven to keep jobs local. That's what we're trying to say, and we need to stop trying to sell the utility if we want to get our positions filled. Nobody wants to come work for,
6 months.
Pick up their whole family, buy a house, and move to Seward to find out if maybe the utility's going to go up for sale again.
I think we need to find out where they're advertising those jobs, or if they are, because Rob's wasn't advertised till after he quit. I mean, his assistant.
But it doesn't matter because no one will apply now anyways.
So we have only a short amount of time. Let's keep on do Megan, Kelly, you guys feel, I feel more than comfortable that you two together will come up with everything that's perfect. And just to reiterate, we're getting, you two are going to come up with a edited version of this. We're going to email it to council. I'm going to try for the work session. And we are planning on...
Is it a special meeting or work session?
It is a special meeting that is a work session. And
next Monday.
Yeah, and we intend to read the long letter that you two come up with. And then, and are we going for the journal or not? That's...
I have a message from him. If you want me to read it real quick?
I think you should put it.
Sam McDavid?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, from Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, it just says that it should be to them by tomorrow, and
You're up all night.
the sooner together, and it said a PDF works, okay?
Okay.
I have this phone number if you want it.
Okay, so the only thing with that is if we send the condensed version to the journal, one thing that you guys will want to be careful of or make sure of, the legislative link to the lay down, all the reports, the budget, everything that we're going to put will not be available until Tuesday morning next week. So if you publish something this week in the journal and you have a link to everything we've done, it actually won't be available till the next week.
Except for online, because they post it right away online.
They post what right away online?
The articles and the links.
For the journal.
Yeah, Journal has an online thing too.
Oh, so we can send our whole entire report, everything that we want to present through the legislative to the journal as a link?
I don't know, I just know.
Wait,
they have
this is,
something online.
are we talking about we have to get them to them by
Tomorrow,
tomorrow or by the following week?
or by the following week.
So what is the rush for tomorrow when we
Well,
don't know
he
about-
just said he needs it by tomorrow, only if we want it in the paper
Right.
the next
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so we have 1 week.
But if you
So
don't
then we'll
miss
have the
deadline,
links if we have
Right.
any.
they can still post it on their online thing, by the way, I think.
Okay, I think we wait a week. I don't think we're trying to get
You're gonna have.
Being well-written and
So if we wait a week, it'll still be 4 days before 5 days before the election.
Okay. I feel good with that.
Plus, I would
Slow
like,
down.
even though Kelly and I work on it, I'd like to sort of run it by the other committee members, because they might, see something like Kevin saw a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
Okay.
We can try and work, do you know how to use Google Drive? We can just work remotely on it and come up with something and send it to the clerk to send to you guys for any final comments, and then we'll send it to. But there's two things. There's the long letter, and then there's a condensed version for the journal.
Correct.
Is that correct?
with all these links.
With the links.
And then, well, just going back, I'm sorry to keep on beating this one, but the only link you will need is the link to legislative history if we present everything to council as a laydown at the next Monday meeting.
Let's do that.
Okay. That
Otherwise,
makes
it's
it
gonna be a
so
lot of
simple.
links.
Right.
Okay.
And then,
In-
so
Yeah.
then, when it's presented on Monday, then that link is available on Tuesday morning?
I do believe so, yes.
Okay, and then the newspaper is due on Tuesday morning, right? Becky-
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah. So,
like Kevin said, if you give them a heads up on what the size is, so they can.
They actually
block
let you
out.
go a little bit later in the day, because we did with our other committee,
okay, so
get our
let's
letter in.
go on to agenda item 8H, investigate in detail to dissolve the committee. A motion in a second.
So move.
Second.
Go ahead, Jim.
We've completed everything the council has asked for, and additional. I would like this committee, instead of the council at the next meeting dissolving us, I think we should move forward and do that after the next council meeting, effective date. We would dissolve, that'll be before the election. After the election, when the citizens of Seward want to keep the utility, then the city council could perhaps reinstate it, a committee with a workable mission statement. We're complete with everything that was assigned to us. The mission statement has put roadblocks up on everything that's been talked about here that's in and above what the mission statement said. I think we need to dissolve effective after next Monday's council meeting, so we have time to do the laydowns and visit with them, because there's no reason they don't dissolve it.
So I'll make a comment. In an effort, Vice Chair Paquette told me that council already has it on the agenda, but that is not public information. I haven't seen the agenda. I don't know the agenda. And really, quite honestly, I want to keep everything very clear in communication, transparent, and I don't want to make any decisions based off of hearsay. I love this committee. I love the work I've been doing. I do have some travel planned that hopefully I can still attend virtually, because I am extremely passionate about the electricity. If the council so wants to dissolve us, the ball's in their court, but as far as me, I'm going on record that I want to continue my work, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
I don't think that the council has appreciated what we've done to date, and they did not like us coming up with alternatives. And I think we could do better as private citizens, I think, because then we don't have to worry about the open meetings rule. Right now, more than three of us can't get together. and discuss these items, which sort of slows things down when you're trying to get other people involved. I mean, there's been quite a few people in Seward that would love to be involved in some of the stuff that we're working on. And I think Jim's right. We did our due diligence. You're correct too, and I do want to publicly say that you've done a wonderful job as chair.
Thank you.
You really did. I think, especially since I'm leaving anyway, but the rest of you, if it's up to you, I mean, we could vote on it. But
Yeah, let's go ahead and vote on it. So if you guys have a motion, go ahead, Phil.
I guess, just to throw in my comment, in some ways, I see more of a political splash if they kill us than us resigning. All of a sudden, it's going to be, what? What the hell's going on now with this council? That would be my only reason to let them
Dissolve us.
So then they take some heat over, what are they doing wrong? But I can go either way. I'm tired of this open meeting.
So just in an effort to keep everything on schedule, I got to get back to my little guy. Why don't you guys want to make a motion and we can vote on it?
So moved. To dissolve after the 25th, after the council meeting is completed on the 25th. We've met or exceeded all our directives, our deliverables, and we've exceeded our mission statement.
I'll second that.
Okay. And any discussion?
Could we add, unless there's further direction or something from the council?
No.
I mean, do we give them? We don't give them
We asked for comments from them before, and they didn't give us
I know, I'm
any.
just being diplomatic.
I'm just wondering, if the work session's scheduled for a different day or something. I mean, I don't know.
I don't feel comfortable dissolving, period. I mean, I have already expressed mine. I'm not gonna walk away, but if someone tells me to go away, I will.
Can we call for a vote?
I'll call for a vote. Go for it.
Casagrande?
No.
Kaluza?
No.
McCracken?
Yes.
Dunham?
Yes.
Paquette is absent. Testamata?
I can't abstain, can I? It's going to be a tie vote. God. No.
And Hatfield is no. So 4 no, 2 yes.
So we'll go
Okay,
ahead.
well, I won't quit.
So you go on vacation?
Yeah, I go on vacation.
You remember at the
instead.
first meeting, I said I only wanted to be on this if it was fun,
Yeah.
and there's been times when it really wasn't a lot of fun, but mostly it's been fun. I mean, I've really appreciated working with all of you.
Me too.
So, and I'll look forward to continue working with you.
And make
over
this
the
be
phone.
one meeting.
Over the phone, I'm not allowed to say anything, though, except
Thank you
here.
so much.
Yeah, it's hard. Good
So,
Thank you, Council.
so we'll go ahead and go to council citizen comments really quick, as fast as you can.
And I've been waiting for a pause, and, never mind.
Okay. Seeing none,
You said you were offering a prize?
No, not a prize.
Oh.
If I had pizza, I would give everybody pizza, but I don't.
committee and administration comments, to citizens' comments.
Nope.
Nope, okay. We're adjourned at 8:44. Kelly?
Oh, it just turned to 44.